There was no nation that had a clearer motive to destroy the pipelines than the United States. Only the United States had the means, the motive, and the opportunity to destroy this vital infrastructure.
Ultimately, this is also a tremendous opportunity. It's a tremendous opportunity to once and for all remove the dependence on Russian energy, and thus to take away from Vladimir Putin the weaponization of energy as a means of advancing his imperial designs. That's very significant, and that offers tremendous strategic opportunity for the years to come.
President Biden publicly declared his intention to destroy Nord Stream 2 back on February 7th. He was speaking at a joint news conference with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, and Biden said,
if Russia invades, that means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine again. Then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
And she asked incredulously, but how will you do that exactly, since the project is in Germany's control? And Biden responded,
we will, I promise you, we'll be able to do it.
This was quite a shocking thing to say, that even though it was a German pipeline, Germany being probably our closest ally, military ally in the world, and here's Biden saying we're going to destroy the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and you have the chancellor, the head of the nation that has spent many years and fortunes to construct this thing, which will have an incredibly positive impact on the nation of Germany. And yet he's standing there silent as President Biden is saying, in effect, that if Russia comes across the border, that he will destroy Nord Stream 2 pipeline. In law, a comment like the one made by President Biden is what is known as a party admission. It's admissible in evidence as a party admission in a trial. So we have an admission from the president, we have the opportunity, we have the means, we have an incredibly strong motive. Now, there are other nations that did have motive, as I mentioned, Poland, but the way that NATO operates without prior approval from the United States, there is no nation in NATO that would move forward with an attack that would have such profound ramifications on Europe. Remember, NATO is essentially a creation of the United States. The organization is peppered by American top officials, and even the Supreme Allied Commander, Europe, is always an American. So I do not believe that any nation would carry out an attack of this sort without the prior permission of the United States. I just look at the likelihood. I've dealt with thousands of criminal cases, and typically you'll call in criminal investigation division, the police, the FBI, the British bobbies, and you review the evidence, and I would often comment, because I would have these gathered around me, and I'd say, okay, looking at this, I've got a hunch this is where we need to look. And in most cases, I was correct. In this case, my hunch is the United States did it. The motive for it is quite clear. And I think quite logically, it may have been one U.S. objective to say, let's just destroy the pipelines. And that way the European people can rant and rave as long as they want. But if they say, turn on the pipeline and restore the gas, it can't be done. And so it takes some of the steam out of the protest movements. Now, anybody who thinks the CIA would not do something of this nature simply does not understand the CIA. They don't function in the best interest of the American people. Their aim is to serve the boys from Davos, as I call them, groups like the World Economic Forum and all the other globalist organizations that are linked together and have enormous profits at stake in these wars. By breaking up Ukraine, by creating the war situation and knocking the socks off of the Ukrainian economy through the war, they're in the process right now of rushing in to buy up state-owned properties of Ukraine and buying them up at a nickel on the dollar. The Ukrainian people are impoverished. Outside globalists, oligarchs have the money. They're buying things on a fire sale. They want to do the same thing with Russia. And so I am most uneasy that the Central Intelligence Agency, DOD, and the State Department have coordinated to destroy those pipelines. Like I say, that's speculation, but I think it's a pretty good guess. As winter approaches, the people of Europe are beginning to wake up. And I hope that they realize they've been taken on a wild venture that is not only murderous for the Ukrainian and the Russian people, but it's suicidal for at least the economy of Europe. And I hope that the American people will also begin to recognize that, like so many of these military endeavors, this was a setup from the beginning. Yes, the Russians did attack, but the war had been planned for many years and had been going on 7 years before the Russians ever crossed the border.